Isaac, thank you so much. I'm talking to Isaac Garcia today, the co-founder and CEO of Central Desktop. Appreciate the time. I know you're cranking, but I think I really was happy when you said you would take the time to do the interview, because I know you've got tremendous insights for the readers of my blog and for entrepreneurs that are really trying to do what you've done a couple times now. So I'm not an investor in the company, but I've invested my time as a board member and have worked with you and Arnoff, the other co-founder, really since the beginning, or I'd like to think it's near the beginning at the Starbucks on the Mesa in Santa Barbara, California. And so anyway, I just want to start off by giving you a chance to explain, why does the world need Central Desktop?
Well, thanks for having me here, John, and it's a pleasure to be here. Why does the world need Central Desktop? I would say collaboration is really hard. From day one of the internet, from its inception back in 95, 94, that's when I peg it as the beginning. You know, we were always promised the dream of being able to collaborate and connect with people all over the world and get all kinds of things done really quick and easy, and this is going to revolutionize everything. But today, you know, fast forward 20 years, it's still difficult. It's still really hard to connect with other people. So what we found is teams within large, small, medium-sized companies, nonprofits, et cetera, they all need collaboration tools, and they all need them to be easy to use, fast to set up, and they need to be accessible from anywhere and everywhere. So that was the, I guess, founding premise and idea of Central Desktop.
Okay. You transitioned from that startup at Starbucks to a company that's well on its way. You've got OpenView, you've got great investors, and you're out of the nascent stage, but you're in also has its own sets of challenges, the growth stage. Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently, or do you have any words of advice for an entrepreneur that's also sort of at the very beginning of the growth stage?
I think from the beginning, there's two things that stand out. One is you sort of need the unbridled optimism whenever you run a startup. So in the beginning, we had that, and we still do. But I wish someone would have told me and beat me on the head a little bit more, saying it's going to take even longer than you think. So, you know, we're almost 6 years into it, and we absolutely have graduated to what I would describe as a mid-stage startup. But I wish someone had warned me that it's going to take even longer. The other thing that I think I was warned on this one, but we should have done sooner, was we should have segmented our customers sooner and narrowed our marketing segment to a more narrow focus sooner than we have. We've done it. It's been successful now. I think we would have been more successful had we done that sooner.
Yep. Well, I take responsibility for part of that, because I should have given you that guidance. We're all victims of our own past, and Go to My PC turned out to be a very horizontal play, and as well as Go to Meetings. So I think I was a little bit more blind to that than someone else might have been. So shame on me. But you guys have done an incredible job of staying. You're in a very confusing, crowded market, which can be problematic. But every time I read something from one of the analysts, you're always in their super duper magic quadrant. They always put you above the fray. And you haven't raised $1 gazillion. You've been very capital efficient. So what do you attribute that ability to message and focus and really make sure that the market sees you for what you are, which is something that's truly different?
Well, I think it's in the first 3 years of the business was primarily a bootstrap company, and we spent all of our time on the phone with our customers. So I think every customer that called in, every customer that wanted to speak with someone was able to reach a human being, even when we were a two-person company. I think that made a difference with standing out from our competition, that we had a human element. As far as analysts go, well, let me back up. A lot of other companies in our space tried to do purely a self-service kind of business, and it was actually quite difficult to reach them on the phone, where they wouldn't even publish a phone number. I used to always joke, try to call Google when you have a problem.
Right.
It's really possible. So that was one big differentiator. As far as with the analysts go, that's kind of an ongoing, nurturing relationship. And analysts, I think, are very similar to investors in that they need to be nurtured, they need to be taken care of, and you can have an ongoing dialogue with them, even if you don't have news, even if you don't have the latest and greatest product that's out at the moment. And it's about staying on their radar. And you can stay in touch with them on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis with a simple analyst-based newsletter that goes just to them, so they feel exclusive and they feel like they're part of your inner circle. Mm-hmm. And from the early days, we've done a good job of nurturing those relationships.
Yep. No, I think you have, absolutely. And anybody that Googles you we'll see that you have in point of fact. So I'm a big fan of startups' origin stories. You guys have an interesting origin story. I think just like a superhero, you got to have a good origin story. Do you want to just briefly describe how you and Arnoff came to start Central Desktop?
Yeah. So at the time that we were still at CNET.com, and we had, I think we had made a decision. Let's kick out of CNET and let's go launch something else. We hadn't really developed anything, but we were sort of seeding ideas over on the weekend, et cetera. What really came out, though, was I did a really large deal. I was in the enterprise sales group at CNET, and we did a really large deal with Microsoft. At Microsoft, I would fly up to Redmond twice a week, and we'd all sit around this really large conference table, and we would do statement of works, project plans, legal documents, to-dos for the week, the month, all kinds of stuff. And we had a whole bunch of people involved in this particular project. And at the time, it was the largest project that Microsoft had ever done. It was a $100 million advertising campaign, and it rolled up to Bill Gates on a 2-week basis. It was mission critical to the company. But we would sit around a conference room, and at the end of every meeting, everyone would kind of have a go-between and say, well, can you send me that email from the updated project plan that we just did? And I would have to raise my hand and say, well, I can't get on the Wi-Fi here at Microsoft. I'll pick it up at the airport, and then I'll respond with my changes, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And everyone, even the contractors at Microsoft, had the same problem. Over time, we graduated to a better way of collaborating. We were sharing a USB stick,
Nice.
and we would pass around a USB stick around the conference room table. And at one point, being familiar with Microsoft products, I had asked them, I said, why aren't we using SharePoint to organize this project? It's the most important project in all of Microsoft right now. Why aren't we using SharePoint? And we could collaborate, put all of our documents in a single team site, and be able to access it from anywhere, et cetera. And I had a really good relationship, still do, with those guys at Microsoft, and they sort of patted me on the head, and they smiled, and they laughed at me, and they said, oh, Isaac, kind of like poor Isaac. We didn't have the resources to do that. And that's kind of when it really coalesced and really sunk in that there was a really big problem here, that if Microsoft, the world's largest software company, who had the largest cash balance, largest capitalization, who built collaboration software,
right.
If they can do it, then how in the world is a small or a medium-sized company going to be able to do it? And then Arnoff and I kind of coalesced around that idea and looked back in our careers, looked at CNET, looked at other companies, spoke with other prospects and friends, and et cetera, and realized, this is pervasive, and this was a problem that we always struggled with. So we set out to create something that was, in some ways, anti-Microsoft. How do you make something as useful as SharePoint available to the masses, which is small and medium-sized companies, and departments and divisions within larger companies to use our product?
Great. Yeah, you saw a real need, and you went after it. And you started small, even though it was a huge problem. You started small, bootstrapped, proved your value prop, and then raised money, which is what I always advise entrepreneurs to do. So I think that online collaboration is like a Jackson Pollock painting. Everybody looks at it and comes away with a different opinion and a different interpretation. So I'm curious to hear what you think. And hopefully that'll coalesce over time. But I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts. Will it coalesce over time? And if so, what do you think that definition will morph to?
Well, we're definitely starting to see changes in the definition today, where web collaboration really means everything from web meetings to video conferencing to Skype to et cetera. So I think collaboration has become almost synonymous with the word work. It's how people work together. It's what they do. So I think we're seeing more and more focus around what kind of work is it. So at Central Desktop, for example, we're really focused around content and process and people and workflow. And what we found is in the words that we use to describe our own product, we're using the word collaboration less and less. It's an umbrella catch statement, and it definitely is becoming more and more refined. I think it's a maturity issue with the industry. And if I look back at Salesforce.com and some of the struggles they had, that the market had before Salesforce came on,
right.
was that they really positioned strongly as SFA, as CRM, but without software, and that allowed them to redefine CRM and SFA. So today, Salesforce.com is almost synonymous with CRM or with SFA.
Right.
So I think the definition will continue to change, and I think it's simply because it's still an early, highly fragmented market that's still looking to mature quite a bit, which is why we see opportunity.
Yep, absolutely. You mentioned earlier that one of the things you would have changed is maybe going vertical a little sooner, not being horizontal quite as long. I know that you recently launched Social Bridge. I think you launched that back in the first quarter. And that's geared towards creative agencies, marketing agencies that are pushing big documents back and forth and need to collaborate on them. What general advice would you have about picking that vertical? I know that you guys spent a lot of time. I was involved at a high level in some of those decisions. What did you learn from that process, and what's some advice you could share?
So some of it came from our existing customer base, where we did a lot of, we looked at two places. We looked at our existing customers, that's close to 3,000 companies using our product, and we looked for clusters within that user base of what are their common industries, common uses, et cetera. And then we also looked outside at what are the markets that are kind of big and broad and also fragmented. So internally, marketing agencies, creative groups were, we already had a lot of those customers using our product. But they weren't using us to the full extent that they want. They wanted more specific functionality that we were able to drill into and say, what would be the ideal product for you? What is it? And we kind of did research there, customer discovery, and then ended up building Social Bridge. Outside, as far as looking at the market, we looked at there's no established huge leader that's out there that says we own the marketing, creative, project management, collaboration, whatever words we want to use there, space. So we saw high fragmentation, which is an opportunity to go in and sort of create our own wedge and then kind of build out from there. We also felt that the creative marketing agencies were they had high bandwidth collaboration needs, lots of digital assets, lots of documents, lots of interested parties. So by nature, it's a highly collaborative process. So there's an opportunity for someone like us to come in and put some automated process and some workflow around how they work and ease of use for their customers that becomes high value. The third, I guess, thing that we looked at in looking at different industries was which industry is going to be highly viral. And the marketing creative agencies, you're naturally inviting other folks in. And there's lots of sort of insider speak between the industry that makes it a very viral market, viral industry. So we knew that was one that we wanted to play in. We got others up our sleeves that we're looking at using the same kind of criteria, and we see more opportunity ahead of us, even outside of this particular market.
Right, right. No, I think one thing you guys have always done well is really staying away from the hype and focusing on the value prop and making sure that the hype will get you press, but it doesn't necessarily bring dollars into the door. And we're not looking to just, I know you're not looking to just, flip the company to someone and send them a bag of goods. You're really looking to build value with your customers. And I'm very proud that you guys have done that. To be clear to someone listening to this that may not be as close to Central Desktop as we are, you also have an offering that you can buy right online. So you just go to centraldesktop.com, you can trial it, you can put in your credit card, and you can buy it. And there's a whole segment of the market that's a great product for. Yeah. And that's more of the broad-based horizontal platform, giving a lot of these very high-end collaboration tools to the small to medium-sized business, whereas Social Bridge is you're basically taking that horizontal play and you're putting some features and attributes into that product that are specific to the creative industry.
Yeah. Yeah, we specifically, the functionality is not only the language that we're using from a packaging perspective to that particular market, but we add additional functionality of reviewing and approving digital assets. And that process, that workflow, is what we've been able to use as a strong differentiator.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I can say that I've really enjoyed working with you as a board member, as an independent outside board member. It's been a good experience for me. I know I've learned a ton, and it's actually been fun, which is important. I'm at that point in my life where that's part of it as well. Yeah. So Isaac, I really do appreciate your time. Thanks again for sharing your thoughts with us. And I know that there's multiple nuggets that entrepreneurs that come to this blog regularly can take away from you. So thank you once again.
Well, thanks, and glad and proud to have you part of the Central Desktop team as well. So thanks for your time as well.
Well, thank you, Isaac. All right, take care.